I was 5 years old. And I had this family member that I loved. I loved this man. He was like a father image to me because I had not yet met my biological father. My biological father moved out of state when I was a baby, and I didn't actually meet him until I was around 7 or 8 years old. So this family member, he was my daddy figure. And he would come to my grandmother's house frequently in the evening time. And I would run to him. It didn't matter what I was doing. If I saw him at that door, I would stop everything and just run to him. And he would pick me up, take his seat, and sit me on his lap. And he would start tickling me. Oh, he would tickle me. And I would laugh uncontrollably. And then he would stop and I would say, do it again. And he would start tickling me again. Then he would start kissing me on the cheeks, cheek to cheek. Give me some sugar, Creasy. Give me some sugar. Give me some of this good old sugar. That was our routine. And I looked forward to it, to the point where I would go stand at the door waiting for him. And I would ask my grandmother, is he coming today? Is he coming today, Mama? And she would say, he can't come every day. He got his own family and children to go home to. He can't come see you every day. And that would just break my heart. So having him come visit, that was the highlight of my life. I love that man. But I was also betrayed by that same family member. Came to the house one day, our usual routine. He picked me up and he started tickling me and give me some sugar, give me some sugar. And then he kissed me on my lips. And I remember it was disgusting. It was wet. And I took the back of my arm and I went, yuck. Ugh. My grandmother was off to the side in the kitchen cooking or doing something in the kitchen. And she said, what the devil just happened? And he said to my grandmother, you know how I pick Creasy up and I play with her and try to give her some attention and stuff and kiss her on the cheeks? Well, Creasy kissed me on my mouth. And my grandmother tells me to come to her. I go over to my grandmother. She didn't ask me if I did it. She said, why did you do that? And I shrugged my shoulders because that was an era where a child did not dispute what an adult said. That was calling an adult a liar, and that was forbidden. I started crying. And to my defense, the only thing I could say was, I didn't try to do that. She said, I better never hear anybody telling me you did that to them. Do you understand me? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, and stop that crying. You know better than to do that. So he calls me back over to him. And he says, I know you didn't try to do it, did you? And I said, no, sir. Then he says to my grandmother, he says, I think she was just excited. And she did it by mistake. Imagine that. I did it by mistake. He said, is that what happened? I said, yes, sir. But I knew in my 5-year-old mind, that isn't what happened. I knew what happened, but I just didn't have the right to say the truth. And he took advantage of that. So he says, come here. He picks me up and he puts me back on his lap. So he's thinking I'm mad. Well, no, he wanted my grandmother to think that I'm mad. So he says to my grandmother, he said, I think Creasy mad with me for telling on her. And she said, she better change her attitude. You were supposed to tell on her. So he starts to tickle me a little bit, and I kind of push his hand away. Then he says, "Oh, Creasy don't even want me to tickle her no more, because I know he lied on me." "No, I didn't want you to tickle me because you lied on me." And this is what he did. He puts his hand. Now, I had on a dress because back then, being raised in the religion we were in, I was not allowed to wear shorts or anything pertaining of a man. I had to wear dresses. So he has his hand on my little 5-year-old thigh, and he puts his hand underneath my dress, and he touches the top of my private area. No one had ever done that to me. He touches inside of my little undies, just on top. And when I said just because years later, another family member in the same bloodline actually violated me. I did a video on that one you can watch as well. And I pushed his hand away, and I got down from his lap, and I went over to my grandmother, and I grabbed her, like just grabbed her around her leg area, body area. I grabbed her. And she said, "You call yourself still mad?" And I made a grunt sound. So he says to my grandmother, he said, "Well, I better be leaving now. Get on to the house." So when he left, I said, "Mama, he touched my KK." Now, back then we had terms. KK referred to a girl's private area. She said, "Who touched your KK?" And I told her the family member who had just left touched me. And she said, "Creasy, you're not saying that because you got in trouble for kissing him on the mouth, are you?" And I said, "No, ma'am." And I demonstrated and showed her exactly what he did. She said, "Don't sit in his lap anymore." I guess to her, that was the fix. So he came to the house on another visit after this occurred. And my grandmother, she said, "Let me tell you what my baby said you did. My baby said that you put your hands on her KK." And he said, "What? Lord have mercy. I know you didn't believe her. That gal done lied on me because she got in trouble for putting her lips on my lips. She put her lips on my, kissing on the mouth. And I guess this is her way of getting back." At 5, I didn't even know how to be vindictive. I didn't even know how to put together a lie like that in my defense of something that I knew I hadn't even done. So my grandmother, she says, "Creasy, tell him what you told me." And I said, "You put your hand right here," touching my thigh. And I said, "And then you put your hand right there," touching the outside of my dress on the area where he touched. He said, he tells my grandmother, he said, God in heaven knows, I would never do nothing that low down and nasty. This is a child. This girl, 5 years old. All the women in the world, why would I want to touch her? If I just wanted to go out and do something on my marriage, why would it be with a 5-year-old child? This is my blood. This family here." My grandma said, "Well, from now on out, I don't want her on your lap no more." He said, "I don't want her on my lap either. Not lying like that. I didn't know Creasy could lie like that at 5 years old." But I'm standing there because I know not to have word for word with him. I got my grandmother, my only defense to these lies. She said, well, to solve everything, I don't want her on your lap no more. Do you hear me, Creasy? No more on the lap. But see, the thing about that, it didn't stop him from being the pedophile, the incestuous pedophile that he was. It didn't stop. Because even though I never sat on his lap again, as I grew older and I would be around my family who were connected to him, I would see him do things. He even tried to lure me with money by doing things that were lewd and lascivious. Even when you protect your child, that is not the root of the problem. You got to protect the world from people like that. And they have to be reported. They have to be. Now, this was years ago, obviously. And I don't know if it was, we can't take this to the authority because it'll break up the family unit. And what if the child is lying? I want to say this. Err on the side of caution. If your child tells you somebody did something, I believe, and I'm speaking from my experience, it is better to believe them and it be true than to not believe them and it be true. Believe them, because more than likely they are telling the truth. Just as I was telling the truth at 5 years old, and it was handled in a way, I know that was the only way my grandmother felt she should handle it. I don't even believe it was ever shared with his family, his spouse, unless he told her, which I doubt very seriously. But that wasn't the cure. That wasn't. Because I'm sure I wasn't the only child he had touched. I'm sure he touched other children even after that. And just from the things he did as I got older, I knew there were others. And even my mother, God bless her soul in heaven, shared things with me that she knew of him when she was a child. I hope you've enjoyed this story time. I'm Creasy, Jetty Lee's grandbaby, and I will see you in the next story time. Have a great day.